Hello everybody, good evening. Welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news as PSG play some dirty tricks. Is it a trap as they set the obligation to loan deal in front of Man United, but Man United don't necessarily want it? We'll explain what that's all about. Also, Barcelona apparently want Marcus Rashford. Hansi Flick using the name Marcus Rashford with the Nico Williams deal falling through. Would that really happen? Could it happen? Would you want it to happen? I do want to delve into anyway tonight, a bit of a keep or sell back and forth. You can get involved in the polls. 6 players we spoke about at the start of the transfer window who are all still here. Would you keep them now or would you still sell them? We'll be voting on that. Also, there's an update from Italy around Amrabat. Fiorentina manager wants to keep him. Would that mean the end of the road for Manchester United? And we've got some big comments coming in from Bruno Fernandes on the reason he stayed at United and the reason he might have left. And I'll tell you what, it's ambitious. We'll talk about all of that as well. Lots to get into on the show tonight. But of course, we are sponsored by Boohoo Man, and you may have seen this beauty last night. I had to run downstairs to react to the Ugarte obligation to loan deal, which we're talking about in a moment. There's more developments going on there. But I put this on. A lot of people's like, we like that jumper. Where have you seen that before? It's just a bit of Boohoo Man casual stuff that I put on. And you could be getting all this sort of stuff for yourself. You know, sometimes I just want to chill in a black jumper and or even a red one, or even a white one, or a grey one. They've got them all. Boohooman.com, links in the description, scan the QR code, and you yourself, yes you, could get an extra 10% off with the code Goldbridge. So even if they've got discounts on the website, you can get an extra 10% on top of the discount with the code Goldbridge. They've got everything you want on there, delivered to your door, fantastic clothing like this. Check it out. And as always, they have got a bit of trivia for you. So see if you can guess the player here. I was born on the 1st of February 1984 in Dalkeith, Scotland. I made my United debut on the 12th of March 2003 in a 1-1 draw against FC Basel. I played 233 games for Man United, scoring 18 goals. During my United career, I won 5 Premier League titles, 1 FA Cup and a Champions League. It's only one person it can be. Having left my position as technical director, I still play a key role in the Manchester United leadership team. If you don't know that, it's the only Scottish player I could think of that would have been playing around the late noughties. He's still at the club, of course. It's not Nanny. It's not Nanny. It's Fletcher, as many of you have said. Thank you very much for that. Big shout out to Boohoo Man as always. Extra 10% off with the code Goldbridge, exclusive for you. Get yourself some lovely clobber like this. I love this jumper. It's just casual, you know. It's the weather's dropped a bit in the UK this week. It's not autumn yet, but it does feel a bit chill. So I've just gone with there's nothing underneath it. You can see a bit there. There's nothing underneath it. It's just nice. It just feels nice on the skin and it's nice and cozy and casual. Right, let's get into the show. They're paying Rashford with Spotify Premium, says Mario Franco. Well, we'll talk about that Rashford story in a minute. There's a bit of a poll going on for you. But let's start off with, it's a trap, said Admiral Akbar. We're talking about PSG's Ugarte transfer trick. Telegraph in the last hour have come out with a big update on what this loan obligation to buy is all about. According to them, it's PSG who've put this out there. They've basically said, we know you're struggling to raise the money, so why don't we do a loan obligation to buy? You get him now and you pay us the money in a year's time. Because, of course, they still want their 60 million euros, which is bloody ridiculous. So the Telegraph is saying that Manchester United would still rather do a permanent deal. George Mendes is obviously a factor in this. And PSG, in the helpful way that PSG are renowned for, have basically said, let's do a loan obligation to buy. You just give us the 60 million you don't want to pay now, next year. But the bottom line is, we don't want to pay the 60 million euro because we don't think he's worth it. So Manchester United and PSG are currently 10 million apart in valuation, apparently. Manchester United still want to press on and get a permanent deal done, which I agree with. I'll tell you why in a moment. But PSG are saying, relax, relax. Try it now, pay for it later. But when we pay for it later, we'll pay the fee that we're negotiating that we don't want to pay at the moment. So clever, dirty, it's a trap, whatever you call it. It's just PSG saying, well, look, if we keep negotiating here, we might have to sell him a bit cheaper. Whereas if we do the loan, we'll get what we want now in a year's time. So, yeah, I think it's try before you buy. But you pay anyway, and you pay what we want. So, look, It's PSG trying to get what they want. And Man United, really, it's just going to come down to negotiating. I personally look at it and think this is just PSG and Ineos and Qatar and Ineos, and they're just basically not backing down on something that actually is probably bigger than Ugarte. Because realistically, PSG are bang out of order to ask for their 60 million euros back that they paid a year ago for Ugarte when they don't want him anymore. Nobody does that. That doesn't happen. You know, the market doesn't work like that. You can inflate a player because he's got a British passport, but you can't sell a player for what you paid for them a year ago, a year later when you don't want them. So this, to me, is just PSG saying, we want this price, and Man United saying, we don't want to pay this price. And neither of them, over the course of 6 weeks, have been able to meet in the middle. So now what PSG are doing, by the sounds of it, are saying, oh, have him on loan for a year and then pay us what we want then. And United are going, we still want to get this price down. So I think that I agree with Man United. I agree with Man United on this one. I want to get this deal done. And I think if the only way to get the deal done is we'll have to do the loan with obligation to buy, of course. We can't end up with nothing. But I do agree with United to try and get the price down because the price is too high. And I do agree with United to do a permanent deal rather than a loan because these are very rare and they're problematic because we will get Prats going, he's on loan, send him back, and he won't be on loan. It will just be, we're buying him next summer anyway. So I think I would like the shirt held up knowing he's a Man United player definitively rather than he's a United player in a year's time. So, look, I understand what United are doing. And I think this is why Ben Jacobs said earlier that this deal very highly likely will get done, but there's not really any rush to get the loan with an obligation to buy done, and that could run into next week. So I think we are where we are with it. But I think we are in a situation where PSG are trying a different way to get the money we don't want to pay. Can you blame them? Crazy Keel will shout Rabiot and Amrabat till dawn, says Keel. There we go. The thing is, well, with the obligation is we're paying for a year depreciated player too. Won't it be amazing if when they want 60 million too, but it'd still do if it means we get him, says Dan. I think what Dan's trying to say in an incoherent way is that he's not worth 60 million euros now, and in a year's time, unless he's absolutely amazing, he won't be worth 60 million euros then, and we'll know it even more. And we'll still have to pay 60 million euros. So, yeah, I think that's another great point by Dan. You know, if we pay what we pay now, we paid it. If we don't pay it and we pay it in a year's time and it doesn't look like it's worth it, it becomes even more problematic. What I'm trying to say is, and I think what Dan's trying to say is, if you pay £500,000 for, you know, a gold-plated Ferrari and you think it's probably worth 400k, and then having had it for a year, you realise it's only worth 300k, but you've committed to paying in a year's time £500,000, you're going to be pissed off and everyone else is going to laugh at you. And that's the problem, isn't it? That's why these deals are very rare, because if they go a little bit wrong, you've still got to pay full whack and everyone's going to go, ha, you've been scammed. So you can understand why United don't want to get it done next summer. They want to get it done now. Remember the discount they got on Di Maria, says Kieran. Well, yeah, we bought Di Maria from Real Madrid for 60 mil. A year later, we had to sell him because he was unsettled and they got him for 44 million. 16 million discount in 1 year. They want to charge us the same, what they paid. Yeah, but the fact is, Mark, we're running out of time and we need a midfielder at least, says Manny. Hey, Manny. I can't tell you which way this is going to go. All I can tell you is I agree with Ineos trying to still get a permanent deal done in the next 10 days. You're right. This will come down to who can, you know, win in the next 10 days. And ultimately, if PSG end up getting their 60 million euros next summer, they win. If they get it this summer, they win. If United can get it down to 50 million euros, we win. I personally still think 40 million pounds with add-ons taking it up to 60 million euros, which is another 12 in add-ons, just do that. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know why they can't achieve their 60 million euros in add-ons. Will Anthony's contract be discarded if charged, says Crob? Well, he's been not charged in Brazil, so I don't know why you're now charging him in the UK, so I don't know about that. Do you think Chelsea will hijack Ugarte, says Melps? I mean, Chelsea probably hijack a bloody trifle if you tried to get it out for your pudding in an hour's time. Remember the discount they got? We did that. And also, Andres says, Mark, thank you for always jumping on and sharing the news with us. Many people don't realise the sacrifice evenings with your kids and family in order to hang out with us. Thank you so much, says Andres. You make it sound like I'm... doing some sort of charity work here. It's my job. I love doing it, and I don't really sacrifice that much time with my family, considering they're in the next room. And a lot of people have to go and work nights as a nurse or a fireman or a policeman, as I used to do, and that is taking you away from your family a lot more than something like this. But I really appreciate the love, and thank you very, very much for being appreciative. But trust me, there's tougher jobs out there. Crazy Keel, we've done that one as well. Right, let's move on to Barca. Look, I'm going to tell you where this story's coming from because I'm not getting the blame for this. So, what are they called? Goalplay is a free-to-air sports TV station in Spain. I think up until 2022, they actually had La Liga rights free-to-air in Spain. So a report from Albert Fernandes of Play Goal suggests that Barcelona manager Hansi Flick has his eyes on another possible option to reinforce the left flank after their priority target Nico Williams was missed out upon. Rafael Leao of AC Milan appears to be top of the wish list, but the Italians have declared him non-transferable. There is also Chiesa, who has fallen out of favour at the club, and he could be available for as little as 15 million euros. But they are looking for somebody to play on the left wing. And as per the Spanish journalist, the Barca head coach has suggested the name of Manchester United superstar Marcus Rashford as an alternative to bolster the attack on the left-hand side. Strengthening the left wing with a player who possesses great dribbling abilities and can score goals is one of the few requests that Flick has presented to Barca. And the German tactician has put forth the name of Rashford as a possible option, although it is unclear if there have been any developments beyond the manager suggesting his name. So, that's the report. What are your thoughts? Look, you know what? I've always been, and it depends what platform you're on, because on YouTube, everybody knows I'm a fan of Rashford. I stuck up for him on that Belfast night and the channel nearly got shut down. But if you're on X or Twitter, apparently I'm a hater of Rashford. I don't know how you can be one and the other. The bottom line is I'm a big believer in Rashford's talent, and there was a time when he was one of my favourite players. But over the last couple of years, you know, a bit like Anthony Martial, who was in the same boat, you can't be player FC. I just don't agree with it. So you've got to be real about the performances, and they just weren't good enough from Martial, and they weren't good enough from Rashford. I believe in the American dream, baby. No, I believe that there is a Rashford redemption this season where he can score a lot of goals for Manchester United. It didn't look like it against Fulham, to be honest. He still looks like he's lacking something. But I'll tell you what I will say about this. I don't know what Barcelona's plans are. It's all over their, it's all over their Barcelona Twitter accounts that I've followed for years, and they're not dismissing it as complete horseshit. And I actually do think that in La Liga, if you're looking for a Nico Williams alternative to play on your left wing in La Liga, where the bottom half of that league ain't that good, Marcus Rashford at Barcelona, I sort of get what they're talking about. If Rashford was enamoured enough to be interested in Barcelona, and if Barcelona wanted Marcus Rashford, and if Manchester United were interested in selling him to Barcelona, then I actually think it would be a very good deal all round. But those three components are very big ifs, and I would imagine it falls down on all three ifs. Even if it falls down on two, it won't happen. Even if it falls down on one. So you've got to jump a lot of big ifs there. And I just don't. It's trying to jump a big if with a broken leg. I don't think Rashford wants to leave Man United. I don't think Man United are of a mind to sell Rashford. And I don't actually think Barcelona have got the money to buy Rashford either. But what I will say is, if all three were interested in it, I think it'd be a very good deal. I think it'd be a very, very good deal. I think he'd be a good player at Barcelona. I think he'd do a good job for Barcelona. And I think Man United, if they got 60 million quid out of it, with maybe a few add-ons on, you know, we've got wingers anyway. So, look, in a hypothetical world, I think, you know, it's a positive. But I don't for 1 minute think it'll happen. I really don't. Not at this late stage in the window. I really don't think it will. What about a swap for De Jong, says Clarkey? Well, hello, mate. Hope you're doing well. I mean, that's just gone from fantasy to, you know, Star Wars, which is also fantasy. Yeah. Hi, Mark. Sorry, I'm about 5 minutes behind, says Tom. But if United give in to PSG, then it keeps the door open for the United tax on all future deals. Good point. And JHP says, couple of things. If we loan Ugarte, can we now buy another left-back this season? Also, if we sell Rashford, I say keep. 60 million plus is fine, I say. And there's no... Well, apparently we're not buying a left-back now anyway. And there's no way that Barca could afford Rashford's wages, says Jude. And, yeah, I mean, you say that, Barcelona can pull a lot of levers. And forget Ugarte, buy Souness. He's cleared the game, says James Downey. And if we loan Ugarte, can we buy another player now, says JHP? Don't know. We're going to talk about Amrabat in a minute. Obligation to buy is open-ended and vague. Can't we make fee variable, says Coley. Thank you very much. Just as a side to that as well, we are on the show tonight going to do a little bit of sell or keep based on a bit of revisiting from 3 months ago. There was actually 9 players that we did sell or keep on a show, on an evening show back in May. 3 or 4 of those players have actually left now, so we can't do it. 6 of them are still here. You voted to sell all of these players 3 months ago. We're going to go through all 6 of them again, and I just want to see where we are on the poll with 10 days to go, because I think some of you will just be saying keep now. The first one we've done is Rashford because of this story, sell or keep. 14,000 votes, 71% say sell, and just under 30%, so 29% say keep. So still, there are people within this fan base that would sell Marcus Rashford. In fact, 70% of you in this community would. Which, look, you know, as I said, PSG or Barcelona would be a very good move for Rashford. It would be a very good move for PSG and Barcelona. And if the price was right, it would be a good move for Manchester United. Sometimes you can't have these grown-up conversations because Player FC exists. Toxicity exists, and they're incapable of actually having a conversation because they're so obsessed about the picture on the wall. You know, that's what they are. Which is why, for me, I say, if Rashford wanted to go to Barca and Barca wanted him and Man United wanted to sell him, I don't see why anyone's getting upset because everybody wants to go. Everyone wants to do the deal. And if that's the scenario, I think it's a good deal. But I'm not saying do it because I don't think with 10 days to go, we're in a position where Rashford wants to go or United want to do that deal. And probably Barca don't want to do it either. So he will stay. And with 10 days to go, I think that's the right thing to do. At the start of the summer, there was the opportunity to do something very, very big. Some people thought it was going to be Bruno. Apparently his agent was going round. We'll talk about that in a moment. Some people hoped it was going to be Rashford. I think at the start of the summer, maybe something really big. The sacrificial lamb from Ineos could have happened. We haven't had that. They've done a lot on the incomings, but on the outgoings, they've not done anything earthquake. They've not come in and gone, we're ruthless. There's a new world here, and we're going to get rid of somebody just to show that nobody's safe. In fact, the opposite has happened. Varane went because his contract was out. Martial went because his contract was out. Easy work. Casemiro, massive wage. They can't even send a message to Casemiro because they can't get him out. We've not seen Rashford go. We've not seen Sancho go. We've not seen Bruno go. We haven't seen any sacrificial, major, massive player that makes the football world go, wow, Ineos are really cleaning house. Because they're still stuck with those big contracts that the Glazers had, and it's not their fault. So these types of sell Rashford conversation, as I said back in June, is actually needs to be parked because you ain't selling a Rashford or a Bruno or anyone, you know, that's going to shock the world when you can't clear out the players that do need to go. We're a long way off that. So I would always stick to what I've said is you can't talk about selling a Bruno or a Rashford or anybody else that you want to sell, or a Mount, or, you know, something that's really shocking. You can't do that before you get rid of the real deadwood. That's pointless. You know, selling a Marcus Rashford or a Mason Mount because you don't think they've got a future at United and it would send a bit of a shock through the dressing room. There's no point in doing that if you've got people like Eriksen and Lindelof and Maguire and Casemiro and Sancho still sat in the dressing room. On the one hand, you do something absolutely massive and go, we ain't fucking about anymore. Look at that. Rashford's at PSG. And then the dressing room goes, yeah, but he's still here. He's still here. So I don't think this is the summer for it at all. And as Scott says, Rashi will come good. And there is also that possibility as well. I understand the criticism. I really, really do. But I don't think it's... I think there needs to be belief that he can start scoring goals again, because now's not the time. Only way I'd agree with that Ugarte loan would be if we use McTominay's fee for a long-term left-back like Gutierrez. If not, it doesn't make sense at all, says Mario Franco. And keep only him and Garnacho can play left wing with Sancho going, says George William. Thank you very much for that. Right, the next one I wanted to talk to you about, because I've closed that poll off, was, funnily enough, nice and easy. Casemiro, keep or sell with 10 days to go. They said something else then. 10 days to go. Back in May, this was 60-40 sell. So where are you now? Just talking about the midfield as well. Bit of news coming through from Italy. Fiorentina, their manager is saying that he loves Amrabat. Not in that way. He doesn't want to take him out for a date. He loves the player he is. He loves the personality. He wants to keep him at Fiorentina. Says he's a fantastic player. You know, really gets on with him really, really well. And he really hopes that he's going to be staying at Fiorentina. He did start for Fiorentina at the weekend in their 1-1 draw against Parma. However, the article does say that there is still a possibility, with a year left on his contract, that Fiorentina would not turn their nose up at around 6 million quid, nearly 10 million euros, when he's not signing a new contract. So a lot of people have been saying, what's the latest with Amrabat? Well, that is the very latest. Fiorentina coach is hoping to keep him. Man United, it's very, very quiet about him. Weird one. He's been waiting around all summer for United, and United still haven't bought a midfielder. So, you know, what I will say about Amrabat is, I always felt that there was maybe going to be an opportunity for Amrabat to come back to Manchester United with Ugarte. But for that to happen, he needed 2 midfielders to go. And at the moment, we're struggling to get rid of one. So I think the Amrabat return, whether you wanted it or not, is looking very, very unlikely, because if you've got Ugarte and Casemiro and Mainu and Mount and Bruno and Collier and Eriksen and McTominay, even if McTominay goes, you've still got 7. You know, you need another one to go for Amrabat to come in. So I think United were keeping Amrabat waiting because they were hoping to bring him in with Ugarte and get rid of 2 midfielders. I personally think, and I don't know what you think, my opinion is that at the start of the summer transfer window, our plan was to move Casemiro and Eriksen out, keep McTominay, and bring Amrabat and Ugarte in. I think that's the plan, and I'd be stunned if it wasn't. I don't think McTominay going was part of the plan. I think Casemiro and Eriksen going, replaced by Ugarte and Amrabat, was the plan. And where they've ended up with is nobody's gone. They have to get Ugarte in. McTominay's the only one with value, and they can't bring Amrabat in as well. So I think that with the midfield, that's probably what's happened. I don't know if it's false news or not, says Mikey Boy, but I saw an article saying United sensed Chelsea bidding for Sancho around 40 million range. I see that as a possibility. Do you see that as a possibility? Not if, not now they've got João Felix. I mean, how many attacking players do Chelsea want to collect this summer? It's incredible, really. I think that Yeah, I don't sense anything in that. Cole Palmer wins the PFA Young Player of the Year award, says Paulson. Not really surprised, to be honest, even though we had Garnacho and Mainu in it. Osman with Rashford money, says Neil Curran. I don't think we're buying a striker. Cole Palmer has won the PFA award, says Simeon. And what wage would Ugarte be on now, says Kipper. I think we already knew this. He's on 100 he's on 120. Let's have a look. He's on about 100k a week at PSG. So, you know, we give him 150k a week and it's still an increase, isn't it? So his wage ain't going to be a problem at Manchester United. So, yeah, he's on 100k a week roughly. So he won't be a problem for Manchester United at all. We really need a left back, says Ray Winston. I don't know why I called you Ray. You just called R Winston, so I just assumed it was Ray. But I don't know whether you are called Ray. Mike says, I'm going to my first ever United game against Liverpool. I'm buzzing for it. Going to be the best day ever. United, United, United. Mike, I bet you are buzzing, and I hope you really do enjoy it. I think that Liverpool game, I mean, I'm not thinking about it because the Brighton game is a big obstacle before that. I mean, I don't know. It's only Tuesday. It is on the horizon, but I'm looking at that Brighton game and I'm going, you know, this is where it gets dangerous, isn't it? You've got all these people yapping off about positivity and get behind the team and fuck the media and all that. And that's great. That is great. I've been on about that for months. You know I have. But the reason I'm not doing it at the moment is because that was all keep Ten Hag. That was all about the summer. When you get into the season, I think when you start yapping like a little dog about back the team, back the manager, when the race starts, they need to run. We don't control how quick they run. We have to support them, but yapping before results is a bit dangerous. I think it's a tough game, like Shane says. And as we know with United, things can go really good and they can go really, really bad. I think the Liverpool game, just on the horizon after that, I mean, that's a test. I mean, if we can win these next two games, the buzz and momentum would be great. And that's what I hope happens, of course. Now that Palestri's gone, can we not bring Amrabat in, says Sue? I don't think Amrabat plays as a winger, mate, but maybe that money could generate it. Apparently, according to Greek reports, Panathinaikos, if they buy Palestri, which looks very, very likely, there is a sell-on clause of 40%, which I find hard to believe, but if true, that's not the first time we've done it this summer, so that's quite an intelligent thing to do. Matt Hull says, attacking Casemiro was good, but he isn't fast enough tracking back and leaves us open to the counter. Also, I got my wallet back today. If you know, you know, says Matt. Well done, Matt. Ineos Era says CY7. Just on Casemiro, very interesting. We're doing a few players that we were talking about back in May, where we were doing keep or sell. What do you feel with 10 days to go with those players that are still here? Casemiro, keep or sell today. Keep 45%, sell 55%. So it's come down a little bit from a 60-40, but still the majority, and just the majority, it's very, very split, would be to keep him. Let's just do another one. Who else did we have on this? We've done Rashford. We've done Casemiro. Okay, Maguire next. Keep or sell. Now, back in May, with Maguire, it was 78% to sell. Where are you on that one now? Don't worry, Seb's gone to bed, so he won't hear. Bruno Fernandes. I want to just go through a few comments from Bruno just while you're doing that. Let's keep it moving. So Bruno Fernandes has had this to say in yet another interview. He's done quite a lot of interviews, but he is the captain of Manchester United. And he's had this to say about Manchester United and his desire to be at this football club. He said on his new contract, obviously it's a really good feeling. First of all, because the club has made an effort for me to stay and they knew my first choice was to stay at the club. He also goes on to say that it's not only my choice, but a family choice because we all feel at home here, not only at the club, but in the country and the city. Even with the bad weather, we still like to be here. I think it's a decision that makes everybody happy. The weather. If we could make Manchester sunny, I wonder how many players would have stayed. He says, the club that I want to compete with the best teams. Sorry, the club know that I want to compete with the best teams. So they knew we needed to improve the team, and I think we are doing that. I said to them, I don't need you to promise me that we're going to win the league. No one can promise that, but at least that we will have a team to compete and be competitive throughout the season to try and achieve for silverware and compete at the highest level. And I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that, because that is what I would be saying. That is what Rooney said, and he got into trouble for it. And that is what you want the captain of Manchester United to be saying. You want him to be going in and saying, look, I want a new contract at this football club, but I don't want a new contract at this football club because I want to earn, loads of money. I also will only sign this contract if you show me an ambition to make us compete for the biggest prizes, because I know we can't necessarily demand the league. Nobody can do that, but I want to compete for it, and I want a vision that we will compete for it. So I love that from Bruno Fernandes, because not many players do that. They'll sign a new contract. My family's happy here. I want to be here. It's the only club I want to be at. Manchester United's the biggest club in the world. The fans are absolutely brilliant. You get that all the time. I heard Xerxes talking about it today. And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying there is a playbook of what you say when you sign for a club or when you do a new contract, and we hear it all the time. And I'm not saying it's not genuine, but it's the things that they know that we want to hear. What you don't normally hear is what Bruno has said, is that, look, effectively, I wasn't going to sign a contract and then watch what's been happening for the last 6 years. I want a vision of winning big trophies. I want a vision of success. And they've shown me that vision, and they've started acting on that vision. And that's why I'm happy to sign the contract. And he says, I look now and I can see that the club is making an effort for that, more quality in the team. And at the same time, I knew the club were in a position where they didn't want to lose me in the time of building something different. They told me I'm a big part of that, and they want me to stay to help them build that. Obviously, I'm more than happy to do that. That is pretty much the rest of it is just what it means to him. And yeah, I mean, look, the rest of it is very good, but it's all the stuff I've heard before. That was the stuff I was most interested in. Mojo says, I've just booked a ticket for the Liverpool game for my son, so both of us are going to be at the game. Can't wait, but hotel tariffs are mad. I don't think they are. I mean, just don't stay too close to Old Trafford. You probably get a cheaper one. Clarkey says, we should sell anyone once they get near 28 and reinvent in young, talented players that people haven't heard of and coach them into stars. Paulson says, my captain speaks facts. I love that. Seb's gone to bed, Andy, so he won't see the poll. I haven't seen the poll yet. I'm about to look at it. Smoggy Monster says, if McTominay and Casemiro both left, an aerial ability gaping hole would be left. They're both threats in the air and come off the bench if we need goals. That hole needs filling. You can make injuries up. You can make injuries up, says Smoggy. I think in relation to Casemiro and McTominay, you're very correct. They're both very good in the air. But Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Mikel Arteta would never pick a player just because they're good in the air. It's a weird thing that Man United have been obsessed with since the days of Mourinho. We've always got to have somebody who's good in the air. If we actually were trained well on set pieces, we wouldn't be so reliant on a tall guy winning the ball. Because Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool have got tall players, but they're not in the team because they're tall. And I feel that United have got to a point where they do. I think McTominay has stayed at United for so long because he's over 6'2", because we desperately do need it at times. But there is a change coming because Xerxes 6'3". He can come back for set pieces. Yoro is tall. De Ligt is tall. I think Mazraoui. I was looking at Mazraoui the other day, and he's quite skinny, so it's hard to tell what his actual height is. But I'd say he's around 6 foot. He is 6 foot bang on. Ugarte is also 6 foot. So yeah, we are lifting the height of the team. And it's not, I don't want to be picking players just because they're tall. Although I will concede that, Casemiro doesn't get picked because he's tall. He's very, very, very good in the air. But Casemiro, up until a year ago, was one of the best holding midfielders in the world. I think people forget that first season he had with United. And people also forget, I think he was Brazil's best player in the last World Cup. It's a shame what's happened to Casemiro, but you know, he's not in the team because he's tall. He's actually a very, very good player. Delow's 6 foot, says JS. Luke Shaw's 6 foot, although at the moment 6 foot. I say Luke Shaw's 6 foot. He's actually about 2 foot because he's always lying down injured. But when he's fit, which is the hardest thing in the world to say, he is 6 foot. Off to Barca tomorrow. I'll drag Marcus with me, so Steve Brown. And Nick J says, unfortunately, one of the biggest legacies of Glazer control is letting these overpaid players run down their contracts. Don't blame the players, says Nick J. Exactly. I'm tall and I've got passion. Get me in the team, says John. Exactly. That tall and passion ain't the way, is it? And I think that's something that we do need to look at. Maguire, keep or sell. Only 30% say. I mean, I'm surprised by this. So Casemiro, 55% would sell, 45% would keep. Maguire, even now with 10 days to go, 70% would sell and 30% would keep. I actually thought that would be a lot closer because, you know, he played well at the weekend, and I think as a fourth choice centre back, I don't mind him staying for 1 year, but I think it's the wage thing that gets people, isn't it, with that? I mean, he will stay. Like Lindelof, he's going to stay, isn't he? I don't think there's any question of that. Next one I want to do is Sancho. Keep or sell. Thank you very much. Jota is small, great in the air. It's not all about height, says Scott Page. I mean, Martinez is 5'10", and he actually is good in the air. I mean, he's going to get beaten, you know, in certain situations. But yeah, it's. I think I don't like it. It's a bit of a pet hate of mine that we absolutely factually, in my opinion, have picked players over the last 6 years because they're tall. Whether it be Fellaini, whether it be McTominay, we have done it. We've picked players because they're tall, and it just wouldn't happen in a Pep Guardiola side. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't pick a player because they're tall. He'd look at it when he recruits them and go, this guy can play football with both feet, and he's 6'1". Let's take him over the guy who's 5'9", because we do need a bit of height in the team. But we're buying him for the right reasons. We're not buying him just because he's over 6 foot. I accidentally hit keep. I meant sell for Sancho, says Zev. I mean, it's big. It's big. It's very, very big in relation to him. I don't think we can move on from that. JS says, unpopular opinion. I think we should keep Sancho, but if Ten Hag won't play him, then just sell him. Yeah, JS, which stands for Jadon Sancho. Could be Jadon Sancho. I think we should keep him, but if Ten Hag won't play him, we should sell him. But I think that's the scenario, isn't it? I wouldn't disagree with you, actually. I don't think it's unpopular at all. If you're basically saying if Sancho's going to get played, keep him. If he's not going to get played, sell him. And I think the second option is the reality, isn't it? Because he's not... I mean, he might make the bench against Brighton, but I can't see how he will. And he's fifth choice winger, so I don't see his way into this team. I mean, look, never say never. I've said this before, never say never, but I think a parting of ways probably suits everybody. Henry T says, did you see the football fill-in release today? Some delusional things were said about United. Deeney said he would bully Martinez. I've met Troy Deeney, and he thinks he'd bully everybody. You know what? I just think it's just competitive footballers. They've all got egos, unfortunately. And, you know, what will have happened is some footballers who've retired will have seen what Martinez said after the game about Traore, and their ego and aggression will have risen to the top. And they go, I'd love to see him say that about me. I'd bounce him into Sainsbury's, you know. And actually, I don't think it really matters, because Martinez currently plays centre-back for Manchester United, and Troy Deeney is sat talking about football on a sofa. So what he would or wouldn't do is irrelevant. But, you know, that's just the competitive edge of an ex-footballer kicking in. You know, I've seen it with Fozzie when we're talking about goalkeepers. You know, they're retired. It's very frustrating. I mean, I find it frustrating that I was never good enough to play. Imagine how they find it when they can't play anymore, but they did used to play. You must watch things and go, fucking hell, I wish I could do that. I could do that better. I think that's what that's all about. Martinez can beat anyone. He's the master, says James. And Sancho in the 90% club again, says Shahin. Oh, God, no. No. Absolutely not. I'm not putting Sancho in the 90% club to leave Manchester United. Not this time. DK says, if you hear Deeney talk, he genuinely believes he's one of the best strikers ever. I mean, I actually think I don't mind him. I've met him. I think he's a good laugh. But, he like Marvin says, he talks a lot. And he got the best out of himself, and fair play to him. Mark, do live on That's Football of UCL qualifiers. Nah. And was there a poll for Anthony, says G-Man? No, because we never did a poll about Anthony back in May. I mean, I can do one on Anthony. 88% sell on Sancho and 12% keep. There we go. I will do one on Anthony because, at the end of the day, I don't want to be accused of any sort of favouritism. He will not be sold. There's no doubt about that. But vote away. That's what we're all about. Thanks everyone who's tuning in tonight, by the way. We're very nearly at 2,000 likes. Nick J says, is anyone talking about Anthony? We literally just did. 200k a week, and I genuinely can't see his route to regular football. And I think this is a great point, actually. We spend a lot of time this summer talking about transfers. And I've got to be honest with you, it's like a different world when the transfer window closes. I remember doing my very first transfer window on the United Stand, and I was like, oh my God, Sky Sports will be out of business by Christmas. We're getting that much viewers and interaction and everything. It was like unbelievable. And then you hit September the 1st and suddenly you're like, oh, it's the international break. Where's everybody gone? And then you do it for a few years and you realise it's just about ups and downs and peaks and troughs. And it's fine. But I've got to be honest with you. I've said it before. I get to a point where I'm absolutely ecstatic when the transfer window closes. Talking about Sancho, remember that summer where we didn't get him? And I think it was after COVID and the transfer window closed at the end of September because we'd had COVID. And it was so stressful. 90% club for 2 months. It didn't happen. And even though it didn't happen, I was still happy that the window closed because I was like, I've had enough of it. I've had enough of it now. So I long for the day now, in 2 weeks' time, when the transfer window's closed and we can actually spend midweek evening shows talking about tactical issues and what should happen for Brighton and what should happen in the Europa League and, what we should do here, there and everywhere. Because that's something different that it's very difficult to talk about at the moment because people are obsessed about Ugarte and this, that and the other. But great point about Anthony, because I think there are a lot of conversations that have been put on hold because the transfer window is still open. We've spoken about Rashford, forget that. What about Onana? I watch Onana against Fulham. He's booting the ball long out of play again. We've got to utilise this goalkeeper for what we bought him for. If we don't play out from the back and he isn't a sweeper keeper, there was literally no point in getting rid of De Gea. We've got to get the best out of Onana this year. It's not all on Onana, it's also on the coaches. Mason Mount. What's his pathway to the first team? I think Mason Mount is a really good player, but I don't see a pathway to the first team. And you're telling me we spent £55 million and gave him the number 7 shirt to sit on the bench. That was not the plan. That was not the plan. And yet at the moment, we're all sat there going, he is a really good player to have around, to come on. You can put him on the right, you can put him at number 8, you can put him at number 10, you can put him at false 9. He never stops running. He's a technically good player. He's a nice lad. What a good option to have on the bench. But that's not what we bought him for. And we're kidding ourselves. We paid 55 million with 1 year left on his deal, and we gave him the number 7 shirt. That was not the plan. So we cannot sit here and go, as long as he's on the bench, he's not doing anything wrong. I don't think he'd be happy with that. I don't think we should be happy with that. But then you look at it and you go, what is his pathway into the first team? Bruno Fernandes has just signed a new long contract and is the captain of the club, and he never gets injured, and he's playing in Mount's best position. So where does Mount get in to that team? Right wing, do you think he's better than Ahmad? Number 8, do you think he's better than Mainu? I don't know where he gets into that team. I think he could become a Darren Fletcher, a John O'Shea, a Wes Brown, and you need those types of players, but we didn't buy him to be that. And what I mean by that is a really good player who does play a lot of football, but when your best 11's ready, he ain't in it. And I don't know where he's going to fit in. And then you move on to Anthony, another one who you go, oh yeah, he's got the gab, he's got the gift of the gab, he's got the belief, he's got the technique, but can he deliver it? And if he does deliver it, is he good enough to get in that team? Because honestly, the Anthony I saw at Ajax, I believed was going to be a really good signing for Manchester United. And I want it to work. There's not a player at Man United I don't want it to work out for. Like, for me, you talk about selling Anthony or Mount or Rashford or Bruno or whoever you want to sell. I know we're in a better position as a football club if any of those players suddenly turn it around. Because it's a lot better for our football club that the players that are already here start performing than it is to try and get rid of them and then replace them on another risk. The bottom line is, the best thing in the world would be for Anthony to suddenly start playing like one of the best right wingers in the world. Because then his 200 grand a week wage, his 3 years left on his contract ain't an issue to get rid of to bring a replacement in. Do I think he can do it? You know what? The chances of Anthony turning it around and being worth it are probably 20% at best. I like to do percentages at best. In fact, I'll go back and do Mount as well. The chances of Anthony turning this around, being a success at Manchester United, are probably 20% or less, which says everything. And the reason for that is, in the 2 years he's been here, he's ridiculously left-footed, he shoots too much, and he doesn't seem to be anywhere on the journey to being consistent in relation to shots on target, but more importantly, creativity. The endeavour's there, the effort's there, the interview's there, but I don't know whether he's actually good enough to play in the Premier League. And that's not criticism, that's the challenge. Let's not confuse this with toxicity or dislike of a player or player FC. That is an honest assessment on 2 years. I really was excited by this signing and I really, really want him to do well. And I still think we should hope for that. But I would say he's got about a 20% chance of becoming a success at United. And to do that, it's consistency. I know wingers aren't consistent by definition, but I don't think he's consistent enough. And I also think Ahmad is better. Garnacho is better. And Rashford is better. And that's the problem. He's fourth choice winger. I hope he can move up, but I think it's really difficult. And we get this every summer. We had it last summer with Sancho. He had a good pre-season. Oh, he's cooking. He's cooking, Frankie. He's cooking. And then you go, I don't care what he's cooking. He could be cooking prime lasagna. I bloody love it. But where does he get into the starting 11? Because no player, Jadon Sancho, Mason Mount, Marcus Rashford, Garnacho, Anthony, no player wants to be on the bench. They want to start. And if you haven't got a pathway to the first team, then there's a problem. Quite rightly, those players should be unsettled. They should be unhappy. If we loan Ugarte, do we cover his wage of 100k for the year rather than pay 150k if we buy now, saving 2.5 million? Good point, Methane. We will only pay... This is a great point. This is a great point, and this is why this chat is great. Because if Ugarte is on 100k a week at the moment at PSG, and when we sign him, he's on 150k a week, then on that loan, we will only pay 100k a week. Because that is his contract with PSG. So technically, you'd say 50 grand a week, which would be 200k a month, which would be, yeah, about 2.5 million. Good question. Good point. I mean, I don't know, but we would save a little bit over the course of 12 months by paying him 50 grand a week less on the journey. If we're 10 million pounds apart as well, you've just shaved 2.5 off it. Youngsters coming through makes it hard for these players to get in, says the alien. Citizen Z said, I had a busy day today, Mark. Is the Ronaldo to return news just the same rubbish we had for many years every transfer window? I haven't had that news, Citizen Z. I don't know whether you're being funny, but I haven't heard that. Oliver says, I'm off topic, but glad the Saves Football podcast is back. Yeah, listen to Goldbridge Saves Football podcast if you're out and about. Thanks for your support on that. Ultras, ultras, ultras. Timo says, is Højlund injury prone now, Mark? Had lot the last few months. No, what we've got with Højlund is a bit of a movement that you get when you buy a new striker where people want Xerxes to start, so they're trying to find reasons early to start slagging off Rasmus. I've seen it. It's up to you. I think it's complete bullshit. I don't think he's injury prone. He played 75% of our games last season as the only striker playing 3 games a week at 20 years of age. Anthony Martial spoke about this with Solskjaer, where his injury problems later in life he put down to Solskjaer overplaying him. So I don't think. I mean, look, maybe Rasmus will be injury prone, but I think it's too soon to start saying he's injury prone. And I actually think the signing of Xerxes will be really good for him. And all I want to see is a really good competition between Rasmus and Xerxes for that number 9 shirt. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you this for free. Why the fuck would Xerxes not start on Saturday? Can anybody tell me a reason why he wouldn't start on Saturday? I mean, I heard someone on Twitter today saying, well, maybe he's not fit enough yet. Fucking hell. We played Friday night. We're playing on Saturday. That's 8 days. He played for 20 minutes. He's had 8 days. He's ready to start that game. He's ready to start that game. That goal was so good. If you ain't starting him in that game, you're having a laugh, mate. You're having a laugh. I tell you what, the big, here's a poll for you. Here's a poll for you. 75% of you would sell Anthony. 25% of you would keep. Listen to this one then. Okay, this is topical. Who would you start against Fulham out of these two? Brighton. You might know who I'm going to do. It's not Mount or Xerxes. That's a waste of time. Now, I think he's going to start Maguire. And I think he's going to start Maguire because Ten Hag, in his head, will go, Maguire played very well against Fulham, didn't let me down. I'm going to stick with Maguire because that's the fair thing to do. I think he'll start with Maguire and he will bench De Ligt. What are your thoughts on that? Some people think, well, yeah, fair play. Maguire played well. You should pick a team that played well. I completely disagree. And I feel a bit of deja vu because the same thing happened 2 years ago when we bought Casemiro. We played Southampton away and we ended up playing pretty shit. And I think we drew or we won 1-0. I think we might have won 1-0 or maybe we drew. And he put Casemiro on the bench and he picked McTominay. Even though he'd spent £60 million on Casemiro, he put him on the bench because McTominay was playing well. And I remember saying, that's all fine and well, picking a team because it won. But we all know, you know what it's like? It's like staying with your wife for one more night when you know there's something better coming along. At the end of the day, you're just prolonging the pain for your wife and, ignoring the one you want to really be with or husband. So I think that I get it. I get why you would say pick Maguire because he did play well against Fulham. But what's Maguire's role in the future of Man United? In a year's time, he'll be gone because you can't renew his contract on 190k. So in a year, it's his last year at most. And he's also third or fourth choice centre-back. Start the revolution, Eric. Start the revolution. You've just spent 6 weeks getting De Ligt out of Bayern Munich. We're going away to Brighton, not Bayern Munich. We know you want to play Martinez and De Ligt. Don't delay it out of some loyalty because Maguire played well against Fulham. Start picking your best team. I don't understand the logic of... And also, I think I've said this before. Also, if you pick Maguire against Brighton and he plays well again, are you picking him against Liverpool? And then if he plays well against Liverpool, is he playing against Forest? And then if he plays well against them, is he playing until Christmas? You know what I mean? It's a false position because the inevitable is you've bought De Ligt to play with Martinez. So just crack on and do it because De Ligt then, imagine if we lose to Brighton 3-0. So he picks De Ligt against Liverpool. And then Liverpool beat us 4-0 and De Ligt looks really rusty. And we've got to go, well, he's got to get used to the league. And then all the press are going, put Maguire back in. Just go with Ten Hag has been at this club long enough. Pick the bloody team you're trying to build. Ignore the press and get on with it. That's what I think. 89% of you say pick De Ligt, 11% say Maguire. I think he'll pick Maguire. I think he will pick Maguire, but I think it's a mistake. I think Maguire played really, really well. But if you're trying to build something new, And you're always one game away from the sack with this media. Don't fuck about risking losing games. Is this not what we... Brandon says, is this not what we've been moaning about? PSG top club as well, playing him 100k. Now he comes to us, 50% increase on wages. Will be a great signing still. Yeah, Brandon, we pay stupid wages. But I tell you what, if we end up giving Ugarte 150k a week, it's still 100k less than the Glazers would have given him because he'd be on 250k. What are your thoughts on Gundogan going back to Man City for a free? Brilliant deal, Kenzo. Brilliant deal. Still a brilliant, brilliant player. But he left to go on a free, didn't he? So it's not like Barcelona paid £50 million from a year ago and then Man City are getting him back for free. Man City will only be resolved by Man City getting found guilty. If they don't, they're going to dominate football forever. I don't really have a lot to say about Man City because they are a juggernaut. Trey says, I've been seeing a lot of Højlund disrespect. How can he get 15 goals and be brushed off as not good enough? Bullshit. It's a spoilt entitlement mentality from people who, when we get a shiny new toy, they don't understand what a team mentality is. I mean, I've said it so many times. I've seen it. I've seen it, Trey. I've seen this whole, it's starting up. You know, Rasmus is injury prone. Oh, Rasmus this, Rasmus that. Xerxes. And I'm like, they both play for Man United and we need two strikers. All last season, everyone was moaning about a second striker. You get a second striker in and people are slagging off the first striker. What do you want us to do with Rasmus then? Should we sell him and then Xerxes on his own? I don't know how some of these people would have functioned in 99 when we had Sheringham, Solskjaer, York and Cole. I don't know what they'd do. They'd faint from their own toxicity of not being able to pick on whatever player they wanted. I think that Rasmus is very different to Xerxes, and Xerxes is very different to Rasmus. There are 2 or 3 games a week, 90 minutes, very intense. If one starts, the other will come on for the last half an hour. I think it's a brilliant signing, and I think they will both complement each other really, really well. And they will both add to each other's games because they actually are quite different. So I'm very excited about it. And people need to understand that Player FC needs to die around Man United because we need Garnacho, Rashford, Ahmad, Anthony. We need Mount, Bruno, Mainu, and whoever else is in that midfield roster. We need Yoro, De Ligt, Maguire, Martinez. You know, we need Xerxes, Højlund. We actually need all these players. And I can't believe that people don't figure that out based on what happened last season. You can't pick your best 11 for 60 times the season. You actually need to move and rotate, and you will get injuries. So I mean, the funny thing is, if we had the money, I would bring another striker in. I think we could easily accommodate 3. So, yeah. Hi, Mark. Do you think Casemiro and Ugarte together in the midfield against the big teams, says Anthony? I mean, it's a nice option, isn't it? It is a nice option to have. I mean, I don't think it was the plan. As I've said, keeping Casemiro was not the plan. But if he does stay and you do go to Anfield and you do want to sit in, I mean, you know what? The thing about Ugarte, I was thinking about this today. Look, genuinely, if you haven't seen Ugarte play, it's not offensive. You're not an idiot. You don't have to have seen everybody play. As I said, Fofana at Monaco, I really didn't really know much about him, and he's going to Milan, so I certainly won't know much more. But, you know, with Ugarte, I have seen bits, and I think people think he's like a Kante. I think they think he's this little terrier that just runs around winning the ball back. He's actually quite technical. Like, he actually is quite able to dribble with the ball, and he is quite able to control the ball in tight spaces and play a pass. You know, he's not Rodri. I don't think he's a conductor, but I think people just think he's a tackling merchant. And actually, he is actually quite technical. And he is actually quite good on the ball. I'm not saying he's elite, but there are aspects to his game. And I wouldn't say he's like a holding midfielder that is like, you know, if anything, he's a bit like Keane in the sense that Roy Keane was quite, you know what I mean? Not physically massive, the aura of Keane was, but Roy Keane was quite wiry, actually. If you look at him, even when he had the skinhead, his body was actually quite thin. Just a very good tackler, very quick across the ground. I think look, I'm not saying Ugarte is the new Roy Keane, but Roy Keane was a very technical player as well as a good tackler. I think there is an element of like that all-rounder to Ugarte. I don't think he's just a defensive monster. I think there are aspects to his game that certainly haven't been developed at PSG that hopefully Ineos have looked at and gone, he could bring in, I think he'll surprise a lot of people when he comes, if it works, because I think there are aspects to his game where I could see him, intercepting a tackle, 20 yards space in front of him, and he runs into that space until someone comes to him and then he slips a pass in. Or, he wins a tackle, someone's close to him and he's pinging a 20-yard ball in the air out to Rashford. I think I think there's an all-rounder element to his game, and Roy Keane certainly had that. I'm not saying he's the next Roy Keane, but I'm just saying, like, his anticipation in the tackle is good. Like there are those players, like, if you go into a 50-50 with Nemanja Vidic, you're going to end up in the stadium. I think with the way Ugarte tackles, I wouldn't say, like, in a 50-50 tackle, he's going to put you 50 yards in the air. I think for him, he is tenacious, but he's also good at winning the ball quicker than the opposition, so he'll get there before them and then carry that momentum on to play a pass or skip past somebody. Hi Mark, what do you think of Will Fish going to Cardiff? Will he work there? Says Shogun. I don't know. I think it's a good move for Cardiff, and I think he did very well at Hibs last year. Will Fish, in the sense of will Fish be a championship level player? Will he have the potential to move into a mid-table Premier League team? Will he be a League One player? I mean, we'll find out, but we wish him all the best, surely. My ferret Ernie says, why don't you sign Eze, says GP. And thank you very much for that. We can't afford it. Foe, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Right, I'm 9:05. I've gone way past. I've gotten a bit too passionate about Ugarte there. Thanks everyone for watching tonight. Last night we had a late night show. 11:15. I was live last night. There's not been anywhere near enough of those. I tell you what, I remember a summer before COVID where across the summer transfer window, I think I went live at like between 10:30 and 11:30 at night, at least 20 times. I think this year, 3 or 4. Not good enough. Not good enough. The late night drops have not been that great, but who knows? We might get another one. Fantastic show tonight. Absolute legends. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Don't forget to check out Boohooman. 10% off with the code Goldbridge on top of any other discount. Get some lovely stuff like this. You've been fantastic tonight. Absolutely loved it. And hope you're all doing well. Stay safe. Take care. And I'll speak to you tomorrow.